Morning, friends. Welcome to the new semester. So you are now starting your third year of telecommunication engineering. I'll be teaching you the course of communication systems in this semester. So before starting the topical discussion regarding the course, let me give you first a brief introduction regarding our course, and then we'll move on to the first topic of this course. So our course Communication Systems is designated with the course code of TC307, and it is assigned a credit hour of 3 plus 1. That means there will be 3 credit hours for theory section of this course and 1 credit hour for the practical section of this course. This online lecturing is actually related to the 3 credit hours of theory of this course, and the remaining 1 credit hour will be arranged as and when the university would decide to conduct the practicals. So most probably you will be having physical practicals in the campus, but you have to wait for the official announcement. As for other courses, this course also depends on some other courses, and there are few courses which are dependent on this communication systems course. So we have a prerequisite course that you studied in your second year, which is Signals and System course TC202. Some of the concepts that you have discussed in your Signals and Systems course would be directly applied in this Communication Systems course. Particularly the concepts related to the linear systems and the Fourier transform are very useful for the analysis of communication systems. Also, I would expect that you have some idea related to the time domain and frequency domain analysis. However, when we'll move on to the specific topics related to these contents, so we will be reviewing what you have studied in the Signals and Systems course, but I would expect that you know fundamentals related to these areas. In addition to the Signal Systems course, we'll be using some concepts related to circuits and the electronics, because the communication systems, they are based on some electronic components, and of course the analysis is mathematical in nature, so we'll be needing some input from the mathematical course as well. This communication systems course is actually the I would say that is the fundamental course in this scheme of study, as it covers the primary aspects related to any type of communication systems. So it has a number of dependent courses that you will be studying in your third year and final year, but I have listed down 2 courses here which you would be taking in your next semester of third year, that is the spring semester for third year. So these 2 courses are directly dependent on the communication systems course. So the concepts that you would learn in this communication systems course would also be helpful in the digital communication and information theory and the wireless and mobile communications course that would be offered in next semester. So the textbook that we will be using for this course is Communication Systems by Bruce Carlson. It is a very commonly used textbook for this type of course. In addition to the textbooks, there are reference books. In fact, there are a number of reference books that are very useful for this course, but I have listed 2 books which are also used as textbook by in some other universities as well. So one is Simon Communication System by Simon Hyken, and second is Modern Digital and Analog Communication by BP Lathi. So you can refer to any of these books whenever a need arises, but our most of the focus would remain on our textbook, which is Bruce Carlson. Although I am using 4th edition this course because it's commonly available in the market in Karachi. The 5th edition has also been released, and if someone gets the 5th edition, so it's okay with me as well, because the the primary contents that we will be covering in this course, they are almost same in 4th and 5th edition. Okay, so these are my contact details. My office is in telecommunication building, but of course, because we are conducting this course online, so most of the queries would be addressed in online discussion when we'll have a live session. Or if you have any other queries, so I would encourage you to send me an email. My email address is islam@naduet.edu.pk, and my cloud ID is islam@cloud.naduet.edu.pk. So let me quickly review the lecture schedule. As you know, as we have experienced in our last semester, that every week you will be getting 3 recorded sessions and we will be having 1 live session. So I would try to release the recorded session for every week by Saturday, and this recorded session will be made available through Google Classroom that I have already sent you an invitation, and most of the student has already joined that class. So I will upload all the recorded sessions related to a week on Saturdays. And the next Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Our live session is scheduled. So we will be having live session every Thursday, covering the contents that were covered in the preceding Saturday's recorded sessions. I would expect all of you to review the recorded session prior to the live sessions, and I will encourage all of you to note down any questions and any queries that you encounter during viewing of the recorded session, so that I can answer those questions during the live sessions. Or alternatively, you can send me an email with your questions, so I'll try to respond as soon as possible. So this was the basic introduction related to this course. So now let us move on to the start of this course, start our discussion by having some basic introduction related to the course. So I will start my discussion by having a general comment related to the human nature and human communication. Actually, being social animal, communication is our natural need. We live in societies, and we want to accommodate, we want to exchange the information with each other, and that exchange of information requires some form of communication between two human beings. So basically this is our need, and this need is not from today's era, but this is from the start of the human race. We human are trying to communicate with each other. There are actually variety of different methods of communication that have been used for like centuries. We used to have face-to-face communication where two persons can communicate with each other. In some cases, we used to have signals, for example, flags, or in old times when there were no electrical equipments related to the communication. We used to have smoke signals to send information to a distant place. We used to have written words or letters that could go from one place to other, so that we can exchange information from one point to another point. And in last century, actually 1.5 century, most of the communication system, they have been transformed towards with some electrical innovations. We have variety of different communication setups that have been established in last few decades, and that are being used for communication purposes, like telegraph, telephone, radio, television, internet. So all these are actually electrical communication systems. If you think of communication, actually one of the important thing is that sometimes we face a barrier in a communication system. So what types of barriers are there in communication? Actually, there are two important barriers. If you think, we have a language barrier where two person who speak different languages, they cannot communicate with each other. Say for example, if most of the students would be able to speak Urdu and English, but if I ask someone to talk to someone in Arabic, so he or she may not be able to talk to that person who knows only Arabic. So why we cannot communicate with each other? The Arabic person can communicate to the Arabic person. The Urdu person can communicate to the Urdu person. But the Urdu speaking person would not be able to communicate with the Arabic speaking person because of the language barrier. So there is one of the important barrier related to communication, which we categorize as language. There is another barrier for communication whenever two human beings are trying to communicate with each other, is a distance barrier. By distance barrier means whenever two persons are at distant places, they may not be able to communicate with each other. So for example, if we are sitting in a room and we can have discussion because we are sitting very close to each other. So but if someone is sitting in one building and another person is sitting in another building, so and they are trying to communicate and one is shouting at one building, so he may not be audible at the other side. So when the distance between two person increases, so that increased distance also hinders the communication between two persons. So distance is also barrier because human voice can go on up to a small distance only. We cannot send human voice directly to a longer distance. So these are the two barriers related to communication, and there are different strategies that are being developed related to overcome these two barriers. For language barrier, we sometimes incorporate translators whenever some delegate is going in another country, so he takes some a translator or interpreter which helps in overcoming that language barrier. And now there are we know that there are some applications also developed which translate one language into another language. So this is one barrier which is handled differently. Our main focus as communication engineer is this distance barrier. So how can we overcome the distance barrier, or in other words, how can we take our voice and send it to a longer distance? So in order to overcome this distance barrier, we need to use some sort of communication systems. Typically we use some electronic circuitry, and those electronic circuits, they help us, they carry our information signal to a large distance. You can think of your mobile phone. Mobile phone is basically an electronic device. So this mobile phone takes your voice signal and try to send it uh, to a distant place. But we know that the mobile phone cannot work independently because it has to be connected with some base station where we have large antennas, and those have to be connected on with some other base stations, and the other base station has to connect with some other mobile phone, so that we can establish a communication link. So in a sense, this communication, we need to have a communication system which is based on a electronic circuitry, and that electronic circuitry allow us to exchange information at a longer distances. So this electronic system is actually named as the communication system. So electronic communication system is actually a system which helps us to take our information to a longer distance, or in other words, this communication systems helps us to overcome this distance barrier. Commonly, the electronic communication system is typically written as communication system. So whenever we say the word communication system, we generally refer to a communication to an electronic communication system. So by definition, a communication system conveys information from a source and take it to a destination, and at which is placed at a distance. Basically, it helps to have an information exchange at larger distances. And if you think of electronic circuit, so it encompasses a number of components. They perform different functions during communication. So a communication system is actually an interdisciplinary thing where we have to deal with circuits and electronics and electromagnetics and signals processing and microprocessor and networks and all other stuff. So our work as communication engineer is actually a multidisciplinary work. So we need to get the information related to all these disciplines. Okay, during the basic introduction related to communication, I used some terms, information and signals. So before moving further, let me try to explain these terms so that you have basic idea of these terms, because we'll be using these terms again and again during this course. So we start with defining those terms. The first term is information. Uh, Actually speaking, information is a very broad word, and there is no standardized definition in the language for information. Information is some piece of info that you want to share with someone. So if someone does not have that information, we share, share with that. So that is the information. Although there is some mathematical description of information as well that you will be dealing with in your digital communication and information theory course, but for the time being, we will take the information as an abstract thing, as it is some information that we want to share with someone. Generally, the information is produced by a source. In most cases, the source can be a human being. So if one human being is talking to another one, so that information be human being. But in some cases, the information source can be a machine as well. For example, if a file is being transferred from one computer to another, so that means the first computer which has that file, so it becomes the source for that particular type of information. So the information source can be anything which produces information. uh, However, as I said, information is basically an abstract word. We have to have certain type of physical representation of that information. So how we can physically represent the information? So that physical representation is named as message. So message can be any physical form. Say for example, for electronic systems, we try to represent our information using some waveform, maybe bits. Computer communication, generally the information is represented in terms of bits, so that bits, the number of bits, they comprise the basic message. So this message that we need to send to some place, it can be an analog message or a digital message. So we generally have two different categories of messages, analog and digital. The analog message is actually a physical quantity that varies with time in smooth and continuous fashion. So they are continuously varying with time. A digital message is also varying with time, but it takes only a finite number of elements. For example, bits in a computer can take only two possible values. we represent those values by 0 and 1, but that is a finite. It's not an infinite number of values. Whereas for analog messages, the number of values that can be taken by any message would be infinite. So from our perspective, as I said, the communication system that we will be dealing with is basically an electronic communication system. So we have to have that information, or we have to have that message in an electrical form. So we generally used to have this electrical form. By electrical form, I mean that there should be the message should be converted into a voltage or a current signal. So it should be represented as a voltage or current. In some cases, these messages they are inherently electrical, as I gave you example of computer systems. So generally the information that resides in a computer system is already in electrical form. But in some cases we need to convert the message what is being generated from the information source into an electrical signal by using a transducer. So for example, if I want to talk to someone, so our message would be a voice signal. When two people are talking to each other, the message is actually a voice signal. But if we want to take that voice signal to an electronic communication system, we need to convert that voice signal into an electrical signal or electrical current, and that function is performed by a microphone. So we generally use a microphone, and the purpose of using microphone is to convert the voice signal into electrical signal. Similarly, at the other side, because the signal is coming in electrical form and we want the output to be in sound waves or voice signal, so we need to have another device which is a speaker. So that speaker would convert the incoming electrical signal into a sound wave. So generally we need to use a conversion devices at the start of the communication system and at the end of the communication system whenever the information signal is not in the electrical form. The purpose of that conversion device, which is named as transducer, is to convert the information signal into the electrical form. So we can have an input transducer. That input transducer is used at the input side, and we need to have an output transducer which actually recovers the electrical signal and recovers the original type of message, for example the voice signal for human communication. And you can see that when I was discussing here, because the message is generally the physical form of that signal, and at the end we will be having our message in an electrical signal form. So for communication systems, the terms signal and message, they are typically used interchangeably. So generally sometimes the signal is named as message, and a message is also named as signal, although signal is also a type of message, as it represents the information in an electrical current or voltage waveforms. So as I said, the signals that we'll be dealing with, it can be an analog signal or a digital signal. So this is example. There are few examples related to the analog signal. So an analog signal, it's a time varying signal which changes smoothly and continuously with respect to time. Of course, as I said, we can represent that signal in terms of voltage or in terms of current. It does not make any difference whether you are representing your signal as voltage signal or a current signal. So these are few examples of having some signals. So the first example A is a sinusoidal wave, or because it has a single frequency, we sometimes call it a tone. So it's also a type of signal which is analog. Second, this looks like a type of random signal, but actually this is the waveform which comes out of a microphone. So when we use a microphone to convert our voice into an electrical signal, so the output waveform would look somewhat like this, because when we are speaking, our amplitude of our voice and our frequencies, they change continuously, resulting in this type of signal which has to be transmitted through our communication systems. Similarly, the last example is of an analog TV. The information in TV is represented by this waveform, red waveform, but television systems, they require some type of synchronization as well. So in order to achieve that synchronization, we used to have some synchronization pulses uh, at regular intervals. So these green lines which have been represented here, these are actually representing those synchronization pulses, and our TV receiver, it uses this synchronization pulses to synchronize the information received from a channel with our television set. Similarly, we have digital signals as well. Digital signals, they come from a finite set of symbols. So generally, the information in digital systems, it changes in steps. So you would see that there will be finite number of steps that can be that can be used to represent a digital signal. There are also certain examples for digital systems, for example, telegraph or code, or continuous wave code, which is generally used in applications, uh, or serial binary code, which is used in computer communications. So these types of codes, they generally have two states information, or binary information, and represented by two different types of waveforms, or different types of message signals. For example, the Morse code, it's represented by two different amplitudes, maybe. One is called mark, and space. Mark refers to on of the circuit, and space off of the circuit. Similarly, the waveforms, the continuous wave codes is represented like this. You can see that there are two different amplitudes. Either there is a sinusoidal wave, or there is no sinusoidal wave. So one amplitude, there is some amplitude here, and for the second wave there is no amplitude, or zero amplitude. So we do not have any wave. So again, there are two different labels of sinusoidal wave which is used to represent the message. Similarly, in communication system, we typically use some voltage labels, making some waveforms, which used to represent digital pulses as ones and zeros. So the higher voltage level would represent binary 1, and lower voltage level would represent 0. So these are some examples of digital signals that we can use to represent our information. So as I said, we have two types of signals. Either we can have signals in analog form, or we can have signals in digital form. Similarly, we can have two types of communication systems. We can have analog communication systems, or we can have a digital communication system. So analog communication system is also a communication system, but it is designed in such a way that it carries analog information at a distant place. So the type of signal that goes through that analog communication system is actually analog. Similarly, a digital communication system is used to transmit the digital information to a distant place. The objective of using any communication system is to have is to transfer the information from one place to another place. So we are interested in reproducing the same sort of message signal at the destination side. So whatever type of message is available at the source, the same replica, or if not same, acceptably close replica should be available at the destination as well. So a good analog communication system would be the one which delivers the waveform with high degree of fidelity. Fidelity means the shape of the waveform would be close to what you have at the source side, so the actual waveforms would be close. Similarly, the digital communication systems, the good digital communication system should deliver the symbols or message with a specific degree of accuracy. So if it's taking some bits, so the bits should be delivered with accuracy. So 1 should be delivered as 1, and 0 should be delivered as 0. And also in digital system, we want to have some specific rate of information as well. So we want to deliver a specific number of bits in a specific amount of time. So the summary is a good digital system would be the one has which has the capability of taking the bits to a larger distance without making any errors the delivery of those bits. So these are two types of communication systems that we use in our life. Initially, the communication systems that were developed in communication technology were analog. So the earlier developed systems were analog in nature, and still we are using certain types as well. But later on, in 1980s and 1990s, we gradually started to shift towards digital communication systems because those digital systems had some better performance related to the analog communication systems, and now we have different types of communication system has transformed into a digital form. This course, the communication systems course, has some introduction related to digital systems, but most of the contents are related to the analog communication systems. So we'll be covering the analog communication in this course. However, we have another course which is actually focused on digital communication, which you will take in your next semester, which is digital communication and information theory course. So that will be covering the digital aspects of communication systems. Okay, so I have so far I have provided you some basic introduction related to the communication systems. So let me quickly review what we have discussed in today's lecture. We discussed that the electronic communication system is actually a system which is used to take information from one place to another distant place. So and this electronic communication systems can be in analog in nature or digital in nature, depending on the type of the signal that they are designed to carry. So the analog communication system carries the analog information at a distant place, and the digital communication system carries the digital information at a distant place. In addition to having discussion on the communication system, we also had some basic introduction related to the information, message, and the signal. and we tried to define these terms as well. Although a precise definition for information is not possible, so but we uh, intuitively understand that information is some valuable thing that we want to carry to some distant place. And message or signal, they are actually the physical representation of that information, and typically for our communication system, that physical representation would be in electrical form. So we will be having an electrical signal in form of voltage and current that would be carrying some sort of information. So I will stop my first lecture here, and in next lecture we will discuss different parts of the communication system that we use in designing any communication system. Thank you all.